That brings us to Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling fired a bunch of people this week. Among them, their world champion, Tessa Blanchard, who has not appeared on television or wrestled since the start of the pandemic, as she has been living with her fiancé, Daga, down in Mexico. He remains, for now anyway, a member of the Impact roster. They issued a statement, did Impact, on Thursday that read as follows: Impact Wrestling has confirmed that it has terminated its relationship with Tessa Blanchard and stripped her of the Impact Wrestling World Championship. What a year it has been for Tessa Blanchard. She won the world title, first woman in history to win the world title in Impact, from Sami Callihan at their Hard to Kill pay-per-view back in January. But the day before the pay-per-view, she tweeted a message asking women to support one another, and that if they do, good things will happen. Well, women did come together and they did support each other, but unfortunately for Tessa, it wasn't some very good things that happened to her. Quite the opposite. That opened the floodgates to stories and allegations accusing her of bullying other wrestlers over the years, literally spitting in the face of another wrestler, calling her the N-word in an incident in Japan 3 years ago that other wrestlers claimed to be present for, so there were witnesses to what happened. She denies having done that. She refuses to acknowledge that she did it. She claims she didn't. She denies it. But she has definitely built up a reputation for herself over the years that is not very kind. And to believe that all of these allegations and all of these stories are patently false would be to believe that it is all just one giant conspiracy concocted by her own peers. This has nothing to do with fans. These are fellow wrestlers. These are peers of hers. These are colleagues of hers. These are people that have shared a locker room with her, people in many cases that have worked in the ring with her. To believe that all of these stories are false, and look, I can't tell you for sure that the incident with the slur in Japan, that happened, but that's one of many stories. And again, to believe that it's all false and she's just getting a bum rap is to believe that it is one giant conspiracy that has been hatched by a whole bunch of people within the business, and I just don't believe that. I find that very hard to believe. So she has built up quite a reputation for herself. Now, could some things be the result of jealousy? Are there people in the wrestling business? Are there people that have shared locker rooms with her who are jealous of her, who are jealous of the fact that she comes from a famous wrestling family and they think, oh, nepotism, and she's getting opportunities because of that and it's not fair? Sure. There's a lot of that goes on, I'm sure, in the wrestling business, and has for many, many, many years. There's always professional jealousy. There's always nepotism, or the perception that you maybe are getting opportunities you otherwise wouldn't get. Of course, I'm sure there is some of that. The person that she allegedly said the slur to and spit on confirmed that the incident did take place. But again, instead of owning up to it and apologizing for it, she doubled down and she denied it, and it just made things worse for her. But Impact stood by her through it all. Not only did they make her their first female world champion, they stood by and had people within the company defend her. And I'm not saying the company told them to, but you had Tommy Dreamer and other people who, again, maybe their perspective on working with Tessa is very different, and maybe he had a very positive experience, and maybe he thinks she's just a total sweetheart. But there were other members of the Impact roster, in fact, who just came to her defense against the allegations. So this company stood by her, and they waited for things to die down. They wanted to weather the storm and hoped and waited, hoping it would go away. Between that and the fact that her contract was set to expire on Tuesday, all the people I see giving credit to Impact for putting their foot down and, getting rid of her, good on Impact, these people need to pump the brakes. This was hardly a profile in courage for Impact Wrestling. She obviously had not re-signed, and so they decided to cut ties first, knowing that she was probably gone anyway. But why leave your world title on somebody whose contract was expiring in the not-too-distant future? I mean, right up to the 11th hour, they were hopeful that she would re-sign, or at least they were hopeful that she would show up for the Slammiversary pay-per-view, which was after the date allegedly, that her contract was to have expired. I saw, Fightful said it was June 30th. Why would you even put yourself in that situation? You are just asking for trouble. I mean, it's similar to the Jeff Jarrett situation, although it's not exactly the same. I mean, that was just a total screw-up on WWE's part. But it's kind of similar where, his deal expired before his title match with Chyna at No Mercy. And he held Vince McMahon over a barrel for more money, or money that he felt he was still owed, depending on who tells the story. I've heard conflicting versions of exactly what he was asking for and why. But I think it was like $200,000. He got his money, and he dropped the championship, and then he burned a bridge for many, many years. That's why when WCW went under, not only did they not bring him back, Vince McMahon went on television and specifically singled his name out as somebody they would never hire. And now, all these years later, and a lot of Global Force gold bars later, he's back with the company. Eventually, they all come home. That's what, if nothing else, what we've learned over the years is whether it's Jeff Jarrett or the Ultimate Warrior or Bret Hart or Bruno Sammartino, eventually they always come back home. But she missed 2 different sets of TV tapings recently due to the pandemic and being worried that I guess if she left Mexico, she might not be able to make it back in, and then she would be away from her fiancé. She was supposed to record a few promos from home and send them into the company so they could splice them into the show and I guess make it look like she was doing one of these via satellite interviews with Josh Matthews. And she never did. She never sent anything. So then they had to scramble. They had to re-edit the episode. I would have fired her after that. Then they tried to get her to come back and drop the title. But they couldn't work things out, which is when they decided to just cut their losses and get rid of her before she could get rid of them. I don't know why she couldn't send promos in from home. That seems like a reasonable request, given that you are the world champion in this company. But you know what? For standing by her, that was their payback. I guess that was their payback for sticking by her through all the tough times. She was scheduled to defend her title against Michael Elgin, Eddie Edwards, Ace Austin, and Trey Miguel at Slammiversary on July 18th, and Tessa's gone, now Michael Elgin's gone, I'll get to him in a second. The whole thing has fallen apart. But again, why was she scheduled to defend her title on a pay-per-view that came after the expiration of her contract? I just can't wrap my head around this. I mean, it seems like a logical question to ask. Although I am tempted to just chalk it up to LOL TNA and move on. We've had a lot of those moments over the years. The spirit of TNA lives on. Now you would think that this would make Tessa Blanchard the hottest free agent in wrestling right now. For WWE, they just lost Becky Lynch, their biggest female star. Charlotte, she's not going to be gone for too long. She'll be gone for a few weeks, but she's off TV for now. But the loss of Becky creates this huge void on the WWE main roster. For AEW, their women's division has been struggling. It has not found its footing. They have not yet found that one big star to build around. They could really use somebody like a Tessa Blanchard. Right? I mean, look, there's been talk about Cody going heel. There's been a lot of little hints dropped on television that Cody could be, they could be doing a slow burn for a Cody and Arn heel turn. Maybe they're going to form a new Horseman type faction with FTR. Maybe Shawn Spears is involved, right? That would bring Arn and Tully back together in the same faction again. Now imagine adding Tessa. Maybe Tessa comes in, especially if Tully were to link up and it became one big faction. Now imagine his daughter coming into the company and she was the female star of the group, right? Daughter of one of the original 4 Horsemen. To be the female member of such a heel faction. I mean, it's not like we can't come up with some good ideas for her in AEW. Just based on talent alone, both companies would have an incentive to want to make a play for her. But it's not that simple, because she now finds herself unemployed at a time where there is a huge spotlight on issues of abuse, on issues of racism. This is not to say that 6 months or a year ago it would have been good either. It would have been more acceptable. But there is a huge spotlight on these things now, more than maybe ever before, certainly in a very long time. And for somebody who has been accused of both, I just can't see WWE or AEW jumping at the chance to sign her right now. There was a reason why WWE did not sign her when they brought her in for the first Mae Young Classic. And she got bounced in the opening round by Kairi Sane. They could have had her. She wanted to go there. She said that she was heartbroken when she never got an offer. Ask yourself why. Why would she not have gotten an offer? She can work. She's a third-generation wrestler from a famous family. Boy, WWE loves that. They love their second and third-generation stars. Why would she not have gotten an offer? The stories about her, and there have been many, for a locker room as harmonious as the AEW locker room is said to be, bringing in somebody with the reputation that she has, not getting along with people in different places that she's been, being problematic. Again, I go back to what I said before. Could some of that just be professional jealousy? Absolutely. Could some of the stories be true? I don't doubt that a lot of it probably is. But I don't know that Tony Khan would want to bring somebody in like that to their locker room right now. Her father works there, so look, you never know. I don't know how much pull he even has, if he would go to bat for her or what, but you never know. You never know. Look, she is very talented. The woman is a star. She's still only 24 years old. She's going to land somewhere. I'm not saying that the woman shouldn't be allowed to work. I'm saying that if I were WWE or if I were AEW, I'm weighing a cost-benefit analysis right about now on Tessa Blanchard before I make any kind of final decision. It's not like WWE, let's say she is problematic to work with. Let's just say. It's not as if WWE hasn't worked with plenty of people over the years, right? Well, they figure they can make money off them. They're a star, so we'll tolerate them. We've heard stories like that for years and years, whether it was Shawn Michaels or the Ultimate Warrior or whoever. Take your pick. It's not as if they haven't worked with people like that before. But do they really want to create a situation that could be problematic for them on the roster? There are people working for WWE right now who were some of the names that tweeted and came out against her at the beginning of the year. And they, in theory, would then be sharing a locker room. Now, I would think that they could all be professionals and it would be okay. But, bear that in mind. I think Chelsea Green was one of them. There may have been others. Do you really want to create that kind of environment? Now, this whole thing makes me think of Ivelisse, another very talented women's wrestler. She has no contract right now with any major promotion. How is it that somebody as talented and as athletic as she is, she's got a great look, she can talk, all the things that like in a wrestler on television you would be looking for, how is it that she has gone unsigned by all of the major players since getting out of her Lucha Underground deal? Remember that lawsuit that was filed? When Lucha Underground was stuck in limbo, I think after the 4th season. They didn't even know if it was going to come back. And the wrestlers were still stuck in these ridiculous contracts that they couldn't get out of. They couldn't go anywhere else. So it might have been King Cuerno who was the plaintiff in the suit, but a suit was filed. Other wrestlers added their names to it to try to get out of their deals, and they won. Or they settled, whatever the outcome was, they were able to get their release. And the 4 names who got their releases were Joey Ryan, King Cuerno, Cobra Moon, and Ivelisse. Joey Ryan went to Impact, and boy, I'm sure they wish they could take that one back. Cuerno signed with WWE, and now he's the Cruiserweight Champion in NXT. Cobra Moon joined the NWA roster as Thunder Rosa. She still holds their women's championship. And Ivelisse is the only one who went nowhere. How come Triple H hasn't snatched her up for NXT? She had a WWE tryout late last year. What happened? AEW, they brought her in for their Casino Battle Royale at the All Out pay-per-view last summer. She was never brought back. What happened? She complained a few years ago that Impact was flying her in for something. This is back when Impact and Lucha Underground, they were collaborating on some stuff together. some interpromotional stuff. She was supposed to be flown in for something, and then she says that Impact canceled. They canceled on her. They canceled her flight the night before. Why is that? What happened? Ironically, actually, that may have had to do with a comment that she posted on Instagram talking smack about nepotism in Tessa Blanchard. Which kind of brings it back around to Tessa. And the point that I was making before about professional jealousy and things of that nature, which does exist. But Ivelisse is just another example of somebody on this very podcast. In the past few years, there were times where I asked the question, why is nobody giving this woman the time of day? She could be a star. And then I would read things, and I even heard from one person who shall remain nameless, but someone who would know, who told me it's all about her attitude. And when you have a rep for having a bad attitude, people are not going to want to work with you. The one thing that works for Tessa, though, I will say, is that she is a star, and she could be an even bigger star. And she's still young, and stars will always get opportunities in wrestling. That's why we've seen so many shitty celebrities on wrestling shows over the years. There have been some good ones, but we've got a lot of shitty celebrities who have been shoehorned into these wrestling shows over the years, right? Because they're stars. We need to have them on our show, even if they have no business being there. Before those allegations came out against her at the beginning of the year, I said that one day we are going to get a WrestleMania main event, pitting the two Horseman daughters against each other. Tessa Blanchard against Charlotte Flair. One day, I said, it will happen. Today, I'm a little less sure of that, but I still think it happens at some point. It just may take a little bit longer to get there.